every company will be a Lightning company, because if we are doing this this move to more financialization of applications, there is no better system in the world than the Lightning Network to facilitate that kind of transactions. With the global reach of the Lightning Network, the near zero fees, the instant settlement, all of these benefits of Lightning enable it to be the best choice for companies as they're looking to increase the fintech aspects of their applications.
Essentially, because you can secure your Bitcoin with words in your head, or encrypted on your phone or through another device, it's much harder for someone to try to steal your money from you. Whether you're talking to folks in El Salvador that are formerly concerned about gangs and cartels and such, but also simply from cash management. If you're dealing in the marijuana industry, for example, because this entire industry was unbanked or certainly underbanked, they were dealing in just massive amounts of cash, and trying to do payroll on a monthly basis to all of your staff is like a crazy operation where you really have to be thinking about security. So that's one piece. Bitcoin answers that extremely well.
What's up, Sats fans? Welcome to another episode of Swan Signal. I'm your host, Sam Callahan. I'm the lead analyst at Swan Bitcoin.
If you care about your financial future, you need to check out a couple of our offerings, including Swan IRA and Swan Private. Swan Private is our white glove concierge service where you get a trusted partner on your Bitcoin journey. We offer all kinds of education and research projects, as well as exclusive events to our Swan Private customers. Check it out today at swan.com/private. Also, Swan IRA. Swan IRA is the best way to gain exposure to real Bitcoin in a tax-advantaged account, like a traditional IRA, a Roth IRA, or rolling over your 401k. So if that interests you, check it out at swan.com/IRA today.
Today, we're going to be focused on Lightning. The Lightning Network is the second layer payment protocol built on Bitcoin, and it continues to grow every single day. We have two entrepreneurs and builders in the Lightning Network space today. We have Jesse Shrader, who is the co-founder of Amboss Technologies, and we have Krizek, who is the CEO and founder of Voltage. So both of these guys are working on building out infrastructure as well as analytics for the Lightning Network. And I can't wait to have this conversation with them. So welcome both of you guys to the show, Jesse and Graham.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Excited.
Thanks so much, Sam.
Yeah, so, I think seeing how Lightning has grown over the years, really since 2018, the one thing that I think has really improved is the UX, believe it or not. It has become easier for people to run nodes, and you actually see that in the amount of nodes on the network. I think it's around 18,000 now. It's just steadily increased over the years. And I think a lot of that is the UX, and you guys are both building companies that I think improve the UX for users. So I guess I wanted to throw it out there. Why did you guys decide to start building on the Lightning Network way back, I think, in 2020, 2019, when you maybe guys started to think about this stuff?
Yeah, I guess I'll take that one first. But I've been developing in Bitcoin since 2012. So I've been playing around in the space for a really long time. And I kind of had one of those itches of I really want to just work on this full time. I really want to have a job in this. And when I looked at, okay, where is Bitcoin going? Where is the next phase of Bitcoin going to be happening? It was very obviously the Lightning Network. It was at the time where it was still very nascent, still being worked on, but it was this system to scale it into these new areas that, it previously maybe didn't have as much penetration into. It just seemed like the obvious choice. And it was also a very, very interesting problem for me, especially when you think about the ways that you around that UX problem that you just mentioned of when, back in 2019, 2020, it was amazing that we had any nodes in the network, because it was all just really, really hard to use. It was just a really convoluted system. And so it's great that we've come a long way. And that's really kind of the problems that I wanted to solve, is making it easy to use, but then also really driving forward Bitcoin and making it, a better, improving on it, making, this working on these new layer 2 systems and all these things. So it was both very interesting for me personally, and then also as we look to scale Bitcoin, it was the very obvious choice that this is something that is going to be incredibly impactful going forward.
Definitely.
Yeah, from on my end, I was just falling down the rabbit hole in like 2017, and that's where the initial conversations of the Lightning Network were really happening. With all my excitement about Bitcoin, I went to attempt to make a couple of purchases with Bitcoin, with on-chain Bitcoin, and I ended up paying I think about $60 in fees just for a single Bitcoin transaction, and I realized that there is this immense market pressure to get an on-chain transaction, and all of this competition. It really drives the transaction fees to go really high, and I realized that there needs to be a solution. And I was just learning about the Lightning Network, so starting to play with that in late 2018, early 2019, and really get into node running. That's where I realized that there's a real solution that's possible with Lightning for scaling Bitcoin.
Yeah. So, when the fees spiked up in 2017, a lot of people turned to how do we innovate here? How do we make Bitcoin scale? And that kind of led to Segwit, which led to the Lightning Network. And now I see what you guys are building today, and it's just amazing to see the growth. So I would love to just start by like going through both the companies. Like Graham, at Voltage, what's your guys' goals? Like, why did you start the company, and what do you do to help kind of drive the network adoption with the goals of that company?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, Voltage is a full service platform for Bitcoin and Lightning infrastructure. So we do everything from running nodes for customers. We also help in some of the observability and, data, like decision making, as well as liquidity management. So all of the tools that someone would need to actually incorporate Bitcoin or Lightning into their business and products and services, we essentially help them, give them easy APIs to integrate everything. So ultimately, that's what we are trying to solve, is making it easy to actually adopt this technology. Like we were saying, 2019, it was like the only way to use Bitcoin or Lightning was to build this code from source and find some spare computer that you have in your closet and run it that way. It was just really messy. And so we really took it, saw that as a big opportunity to let's make it a really nice experience, really give it these companies that are coming and trying to incorporate this technology, give them a very familiar experience to something that you see inside of AWS or DigitalOcean or these other, infrastructure providers. We really want to bring that same experience into Bitcoin and Lightning, so it's not such a weird, different experience. It's very familiar for them. And so we really are trying to just scale Bitcoin and Lightning by making it just a familiar experience, and really but in the same vein, really keeping a lot of the value propositions of Bitcoin and Lightning by actually, using real nodes, real channels, all of these things, not abstracting everything away. So making it easy, but also giving them full control and all of the benefits that you actually get from the protocol itself.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And what about you, Jesse? What kind of problems did you see with the Lightning Network that made you want to start a company?
Oh, for the one, it was discoverability. How am I supposed to find other people on the Lightning Network? So what Voltage does is essentially gets people started with a node, but when it comes to actually making the connections that are necessary for the Lightning Network, a lot of it comes outside of the actual physical infrastructure. How is your node being run? But it's actually about immersing yourself with a community. So getting those initial connections that are necessary to make commerce happen. Because overall, the vision is to turn Bitcoin into a settlement method that's far more efficient than anything else out there. So, and it operates without credit and without debt. And with that comes a lot of complexity when you're dealing with a decentralized network. So this, who are you going to connect to all around the world? Amboss helps make that decision making a lot simpler, and it helps simplify all the complexity involved with a decentralized credit-free network.
Mm-hmm. And I'll take a step back, because maybe just for any viewers or listeners that are not familiar with Lightning. So Lightning is a peer-to-peer payments network. And so you have to have payment channels established into other nodes on the network to be able to facilitate transactions. And so what Jesse was just mentioning is like, how do you know who to open up a channel to make payments, and being able to know, okay, is this person that I'm opening up a channel to gonna do well? Is it well connected into other people to pay through them, and all these different things? So it's a very unique problem in deciding how do you actually set up yourself to make successful payments. And given Bitcoin Layer 1 is a global public ledger, so everyone it's you don't have to worry about those things. Where Lightning is a peer-to-peer payment network, and so you have to find peers to connect to and open up channels into. And so there's a much more, it's a unique way of operating compared to what people think about Bitcoin Layer 1, where it's just, hey, give me an address and send the payment. It's much different than that.
Right. So that's like, so if you're like a business and you want to access the Lightning Network, you need others to open channels with, giving them some liquidity to work with. Or alternatively, you could use a service that allows you to kind of buy that liquidity, where another user opens a channel to you for some kind of fee. And that's why, when I look at Amboss, like, is that kind of the Magma marketplace that you guys built to make it easier for, say, like a business to find like other channels to kind of sell liquidity to, essentially to? Is that kind of what you guys were trying to build with Magma? Because it seems like it's growing pretty fast as well.
Yeah, the original purpose was to essentially improve the efficiency of whatever we were doing in like Telegram chats, to like say, hey, like open a channel to me, even though it'll cost you maybe $5 to like actually open a channel. But recognizing that, depending on the market and what's happening with Bitcoin transaction fees, it might make sense for me to pay you to actually make that channel open happen. Because essentially you need to, if you're running a business and you want to receive payments, you need the network to change and take some of their Bitcoin out of savings and allocate it in your direction. And that makes you be able to receive payments reliably. So Magma sets up a marketplace. So if you want to buy a channel from anyone that has an offer listed, they have the pricing. It's quite clear, and then you can make a purchase of a Lightning channel, which overall helps your payments infrastructure instead of Visa and MasterCard.
Yeah, gotcha. So, I mean, you guys are providing kind of tools for individuals who use the Lightning Network as well as infrastructure. Then there's this term called like Lightning Service Provider that kind of provides like liquidity in a way. Would you guys consider yourselves Lightning Service Providers, or is that like a different term? Like, how do you guys see that?
It depends on who you ask, frankly. Like, I think that the term like LSP means different things to different people. Like, some people call that, like, I think the original term was like Lightning Service Provider, but it was very focused on providing liquidity of just opening up channels into like an app's users. People have kind of broadened that out of like anything like that touches Lightning is a Lightning Service Provider. So like a custodial service that has a Lightning API is like a Lightning Service Provider. So it can depend on who you talk to around what that definition is. But I think that ultimately, when we think about LSPs, we think about it very much in the liquidity sense, not necessarily the other aspects of it. And so there's a lot of different types of LSPs as well. So when you think about liquidity service providers, there's like marketplaces like Magma, where you find a person that maybe fits your needs and you buy a channel from them. There's also more like we have an LSP called like Flow 2.0 that is around, it's more just-in-time liquidity focused. So we're able to like detect payments as they come across our node and automatically open up channels to facilitate payment success if there's a channel not already established or if it doesn't have enough liquidity. So much more like automated system that's really focused on like mobile wallets and things like that. And so it's one of those really, really unique aspects of Lightning is there's multiple types of, it's like liquidity is not a binary thing. There's also different types of liquidity. There's different apps and like different types of apps need different types of liquidity and things like that. So to answer the question, we do have when we think about LSP, we think about it very much in the liquidity sense. We do have an LSP. Some people may think our whole company is an LSP. Sure, I'll go with that. But I think, there's a lot of unique aspects of the liquidity that we really focus on in terms of like LSP servicing.
Gotcha.
For sure. Yeah, the term is kind of funny, but props to Roy Scheinfeld on actually coming up with that LSP concept of lightning service provider. I think, yeah, the term, as Graham mentioned, has gotten closer to liquidity service provider. So this is where like you're taking your Bitcoin and you're allocating it in channels, to make for payments, but overall, like, is Amboss a Lightning company? Yes. Do we provide services? Yes. So overall, like, people go to our site for data analytics, visualizations, but also to solve that liquidity problem. But our tool itself, Magma, makes it very easy for anyone to become a liquidity service provider. So like really providing Bitcoin channels. And so essentially we've removed like the barrier to entry for becoming an LSP if that's what you want to become.
Yeah. And I love the fact that you had like kind of a reputation, based marketplace where you can kind of look and see how reliable that node has been to kind of open a channel with. So I always like that component of Magma. I think that's cool. Awesome. But like, so you guys are both kind of working on data analytics too. And I know even like Amboss, do you guys work with Voltage to kind of improve your operations at all too? Like I saw that you guys had like a partnership back in the day, or is that still in play right now?
Let's see. So generally, like, we use Voltage nodes to run our infrastructure.
Gotcha.
And we use those nodes since that essentially saves us from having to like make an additional like development ops hire, which is like phenomenal for a startup. So kind of like what Voltage is running is in a way kind of like an accelerator for startups.
Nice.
Building on Lightning. However, like we're very focused on being the best data analytics provider, and helping people with the complex decision making that's involved there. We also build tools into ThunderHub, which is an open source node manager and used as packaged with Voltage, but it's on every single node implementation out there, whether it be Raspberry Blitz or Umbrel or Start9 or even the node. You can access ThunderHub. Gotcha. And be able to very easily use Amboss tools and pull Amboss data, because at the end of the day, that's the product to help you make decisions.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like I guess touching on that from my end too is like, yeah, we use a lot of like Amboss like tools and services, and we have some we have like I guess some like data like products as well, but it's more focused on like giving node runners like more of the viewpoints of like what's happening inside of like their node, and just like more operations of just figuring out what is happening, where your payment channels at, all of those things, and it couples very, very well with like the Amboss data set and being able to actually do the analytics and like more of the viewpoints of that are other than just your own. And so there's a lot of collaboration between the two, and being able to combine data sets and combine the tools to making it a really nice experience for the end user. We think we're all just trying to solve like the user experience for people that are trying to adopt Bitcoin and Lightning. And I think that our two tools are very, very complementary, and being able to bring those together and being able to really provide a great experience for those people that are trying to run nodes or operate inside of the Lightning network.
Yeah, because it seemed like years ago you would run a node and it would be really hard to know what was going on. Sometimes, like your payment would fail. You'd be like, I don't really know why, or like a channel would go down. But you guys are both, is that Voltage Surge, Graham, like your recent product, like looking at kind of how you can get better visibility into the node, and similar to Amboss, like just having more data where you can actually see what the heck is going on when you're working in the Lightning network.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and that's one of the really cool things that I like about the Lightning Network a lot is like it's very, very data rich. There's just kind of data all over the place, and so I would say there's like kind of two different types of data. One is like inside of the peer-to-peer network, there's what's called like gossip data. So it's like nodes communicating with other nodes about what's happening. Like, hey, I just opened up a channel so you can route payments through it. I just closed the channel, so don't try to route payments through it. Like, here's a new node. All of those different kinds of information, which has tons of information inside of it. And then there's also the flip side of it, of more of your own database inside of your node, of like, what is your actual local balance? What are your channels? Where do you see your list of payments or invoices, all these different things. And so Surge is very focused on the more operational side of things. So actually seeing what's happening inside of your node, giving you alerts of if issues happen or if you have low balance or anything like that, as well as being able to do like kind of financial, instrumentation, accounting, viewing, all of those things. So it's very, very focused on the operational side of running nodes. And then, it ties very well into like the more network-based data set, which is, a lot of what Amboss, like, I think focuses on, and being able to tie those together is like, you need both of those data sets. You need to understand them very, very well. And so we focus on the operations side. And then, Amboss is very good on like the global, the gossip, like all of those. There's more. It's more than just gossip, but all of those kinds of data sets.
Yeah, with our like kind of network level focus, we are pulling in insights, from data, from node operators that are pushing us data on a like minute by minute basis to actually ensure that their node is functioning well, and also is able to be a meaningful part of the network to route payments. So there is like some overlap between the products where like we are helping node operators make decisions, which is also a product that Surge is helping with. But overall, like it's good for people to have multiple options about how they're exploring, and the two aren't mutually exclusive. One decision that you make may be influenced by essentially different people that you talk to. Do you listen to the recommendation from this side or from B? But it's good to have two options as a consumer of these tools. And overall, it's essential for good operations. It's funny that Graham, you said that there's so much data, but in a way, it feels like there really isn't enough because Lightning is private by design, and you don't have information at the transaction level, and the balances aren't public for the most part. What we have to deal with is kind of like abstracted pieces away. Like what is the capacity of the Lightning Network? Well, nobody cares about what the capacity is because we all want to know how many transactions are going through. How capable is this network? But that data isn't out there for public consumption. It's held by individual node operators that generally by like default don't share that information. So in order to like help node operators make better decisions, we have to take in quite a bit more data and have to go kind of around what we would really want to target, because the transaction level privacy property of Lightning is so important, and we want to preserve that.
Absolutely. I mean, the more tools, the better, in my opinion. The more easy it is for people using the Lightning Network to actually see what they're doing and track all the data of what's happening in their nodes, the better. And so kudos to both of you guys for building tools like that. Jesse, I wanted to pivot to, you do get a lot of data probably through Amboss, and you recently announced a new metric. It was called the Lightning Network Rate, the liner. And I thought it was fascinating, man. For years, Nick Bhatia and others have talked about how there could be this like custody-free, risk-free rate, reference rate that the Lightning Network could enable. And here we are years later, and you introduced the liner, which sounds a lot like what people have been theorizing for all this time. And so just tell us a little bit about it. I would love to hear more.
For sure. The after reading Nick Bhatia's paper back in like his blog back in 2019, kind of like about this risk-free rate. It was very exciting. And so a couple of years later, we were able to build Magma and kind of realize part of that vision. So what we get is like pricing data for liquidity, and what that turns into is essentially a risk-free rate for Bitcoin. And when people say that, they really mean no counterparty risk, because I don't have to trust the other person that I'm making a channel with. It's a completely different risk spectrum compared to, say, depositing your Bitcoin in someone else's account that they are managing in order for you to get yield. So instead of sending it to a custodial yield product, you can actually improve the utility of Bitcoin by providing Lightning channels. So Magma gives us that pricing data, both what is it costing people to get a new channel, and then second, what is the return on investment that I can earn as a node operator? So we've got two metrics: the liner cost, which is comparable to like what you would pay Visa and pay to a centralized network to actually route your payments, and compare it directly to, what is the decentralized network cost me to get that payment liquidity. And then second, we've got the liner yield metric, which shows, as a network operator, how much can you earn off of your Bitcoin without ever giving up custody. And we're seeing that yield metric approach 2%, even amidst very high fees on Bitcoin itself. That liquidity is becoming more valuable, and people are also willing to pay a higher price for it because they see Lightning as essential for the Bitcoin economy going forward.
Graham, did you have any thoughts about Liner? Just curious.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm similarly as excited as you are, Sam, on it. I think it's awesome. I think it's great. When we talk about data, like just a second ago, and I think that there's some of it's really, really hard to parse and like kind of understand, and like what is good, what is bad, all of these things. So I think that the more that we can do to kind of have a singular metric or group of metrics that really kind of help us define and understand all the various amounts of data, I think that it's great. And I think it's something that is going to be very helpful as we've seen definitely an increase in people looking for Lightning as a yield generation mechanism and trying to understand, okay, what is the opportunity here? How would we do it? All of those things. And I think that the more that we can do to make that understood and give them kind of things to point to, and here's how you would quantify it, here's how you would do it, all of these things. So it's incredibly helpful in those conversations. And so I think it's definitely something that we will be leveraging inside of Voltage. And I think that it's something I'm excited about and definitely going to be tracking.
Yeah, I feel like by having like a Lightning benchmark rate available, users can now understand the return on investment for providing liquidity to the network and the opportunity cost for not doing so. And so like this liner metric, like enterprises can now make direct comparisons between the liner cost and traditional payment card fees and processors. And obviously, like Jesse, you were talking about how the difference there is pretty high. And then there's also no chargeback risk, right?
Right. So it works out better for merchants just because of how Lightning operates. But it really gives a much clearer insight to show that a rational actor would put their Bitcoin on the Lightning network if they can earn 1% to 2% yield on that Bitcoin without introducing additional custodial risk or trust within the system. The risk that you do introduce is that you have to run your own hardware, and if you're not comfortable managing that hardware, this is where you would go to Voltage. But people are using Liner to actually set their pricing for how to operate as a Lightning service provider. So if they want to like become a professionalized LSP and start deploying liquidity, they may look to Liner to figure out, well, how much should I charge? Which is a huge problem for actually like enterprises or businesses starting up, they want to know like how much they can reliably earn off of this new network. So it really communicates to traditional finance people, like people outside of Bitcoin, like, oh, should I start deploying capital into Bitcoin and then start setting up this new infrastructure? I don't know if you've noticed this, Graham, but I feel like half of our efforts are focused on like growing within Bitcoin, and then another part are growing outside of Bitcoin, and kind of like growing the network.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, definitely. Yeah, we see similar things. I mean, there's still so much to do and service inside of just the Bitcoin space, Bitcoin companies, like all of these things. But then there's also a huge amount of people that we see that are outside the Bitcoin space, maybe traditional fintech companies or things like that, that are interested in learning more about Bitcoin and Lightning. They hear it's this, fantastic payment system that can, go near zero fees and have instant settlement, all these things. And they're like, cool. Like, how do I get a part of that? And like, they're early in their journey, but they're very, very interested in understanding that. And so there's a huge amount of opportunity in growing in both of, inside Bitcoin, outside of Bitcoin. And so, yeah, I think that there's a lot more to go in that, which is super exciting. I mean, there's always things to solve. And so, yes, I totally agree. There's huge amounts of growth happening both inside and outside.
Yeah, and like with Liner, like we're seeing that now businesses can cut the cost of credit card settlement by switching to the Lightning Network. They can actually like, objectively kind of see that difference. And Graham, you wrote a really good thread and a Medium post saying every company will eventually be using Lightning. And I thought it was a fantastic read. So maybe go into your thesis there. Like, why do you think every single company is eventually going to be using the Lightning Network?
Yeah, no, definitely. That's so I kind of built off of there's a post or it was a presentation from Angela Strange, who was like with Andreessen Horowitz. It was like several years ago, and she had a whole presentation around her. The title of it was like every company will be a fintech company, and it was very centered around the kind of more and more companies are going to be adding financial services into their applications, like Uber adding, like, you can have a balance in your Uber, and like you can actually pay for things via Uber, and it's a rideshare app, but it actually has financial services built into it. And there's more and more services that are eventually, no one really likes their bank. No one enjoys their bank that they use for the most part. And so people are going to be searching for more and more ways of incorporating finance into their applications and services. So that was the original post. I took it a step further and said every company will be a Lightning company, because if we are doing this this move to more financialization of applications, there is no better system in the world than the Lightning Network to facilitate that kind of transactions. With the global reach of the Lightning Network, the near zero fees, the instant settlement, all of these benefits of Lightning enable it to be the best choice for companies as they're looking to increase the fintech aspects of their applications. So when I really took a step back and thought, like, I agree with the sentiment of this financialization move. And then if we think about, okay, what are the options out there for facilitating this? Lightning is the clear choice. Maybe everyone doesn't see that today, but I think that as we develop out the network and more adoption happens, I think it's going to be the clear choice as we start to embed more payments into more applications and ultimately just the internet. There is no better system out there than Lightning for those kinds of payments. And so that's essentially the thesis of the paper that I wrote.
Yeah, I thought it was a great read. And maybe we can just break down for the listeners, like if you guys are speaking to a merchant or business, what's your Lightning pitch to them? Like, why would they change from traditional payment processors or different payment or traditional payment networks to use the Lightning Network? What are some like your bullet points that you always hit? Can throw it to either one of you guys.
I guess I'll just touch on them real quick, Jesse, and then I'll let you fill it in. But I guess so one is like globalization. So like you can, a Lightning invoice can be paid by anyone in the world. Like there is no like, oh, I have, bolivars, I need dollars, like that kind of thing. There's no currency conversion. Lightning is global, and that's just how the network works. And so I think that is one big aspect, is being able to serve a broader audience inside of whatever you're doing. And then also, the no chargebacks is a big deal. I can't remember the exact figure on like, how much value is lost to chargebacks over a year, but it's significant. Chargebacks are no fun. No one ever likes to deal with those. And so being able to just completely eliminate that with simply implementing Lightning is a huge value add. And then additionally, the ability to have complete control over your business and what you're doing, because we see people getting cut off from Stripe or any other payment provider if you don't comply with their terms and services, or if they have some random thing where they just have a new system, whatever. They can just kind of shut you off for any reason. And by implementing Bitcoin and Lightning, you have complete control over your business at all times. This is something where during the SVB collapse, something that I felt very, very good about. I felt good knowing that I, one, accept Bitcoin for my products and services. We weren't affected by that, but if we were, we can still accept our payments just the same as we do today. And then two, we hold Bitcoin on our balance sheet. If we had funds tied up in a bank account that was under some distress like that, we still have the ability to pay our employees. We can still operate our business because we hold Bitcoin, and we hold it we hold the keys. We have complete control over it. And so I think the ability to actually have 100% ownership and control over your business and not be so beholden to the providers that you're using is also a really big deal. So I can continue on that list, but I'll stop with those bullet points that Jesse can have a say too.
Yeah, Lightning pretty much sells itself as far as the technology goes. I mean, certainly for protecting the privacy of your customer base. Like I've got a couple of stories on that front. One was the Target data breach, where essentially all of their customer data from like 2 years of who was using a debit card at Target, that was leaked, because they had some security issue with an HVAC contractor that they had hired. And, so the hacker was able to like get in and get access to all of their payments data. Which is a huge risk for not only for your customers, but also for you as a business, because you're on the hook to compensate those people if they decide to file a lawsuit. So one on the privacy aspect, two on just safety and security. Essentially, because you can secure your Bitcoin with words in your head or encrypted on your phone or through another device, it's much harder for someone to try to steal your money from you. Whether you're talking to folks in El Salvador that are like formerly concerned about like gangs and cartels and such, but also simply from like cash management. If you're dealing in the marijuana industry, for example, I was blown away from like going to college in Humboldt County, where it's like marijuana capital of the world, and because this entire industry was unbanked or certainly underbanked, they were dealing in just massive amounts of cash. And like trying to do payroll on a monthly basis to all of your staff is like a crazy operation where you really have to be thinking about security. So that's one piece. Bitcoin answers that extremely well. And then on the cost of commerce side, Lightning and Liner are really showing that cost of commerce is being brought down by this new disruptive technology with final settlement, and tying it back to the chargeback risk that Graham mentioned.
Yeah, those are all like amazing benefits to kind of transferring over your operations to the Lightning Network. So what are some hurdles right now for merchants still that you guys are still trying to address that's maybe stopping them from accessing this amazing technology that's obviously a step improvement from the options that they currently have?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that there's a couple that we see that we're kind of like actively trying to solve. And one is just like, there's still like, Lightning is still a different payment system than, the Visas or whatever. And so there's still some education that's needed on like how it works, why it's important, how to use it, how to incorporate it. So there's a lot of education that still needs to happen. and really educating our users on just more of how to do it, why is it important, all of those things. So I think there's a lot of education that still needs to happen there. And then also we see a lot of there's a lot of, we're working on like the UX of it, of actually operating nodes, getting liquidity, sourcing it, all those things, so it can be much more plug and play than it has been to date. So I think that there's still I think education and continuing to button up the UX, I think is a big one. And then finally, we hear a lot of people that don't want the volatility risk of Bitcoin, of like holding Bitcoin, and you're exposed to, like, the ups and downs and all of those things. And so if you're a business that's not fully 100% operating on Bitcoin, that's probably something that you're thinking about. And so there's some solutions, whether it's on off ramps or like stable coins via like Taro and things like that. So there's some solutions probably coming down the line and to fix that. But those are some of the things that we see initially.
It's huge. It's a big question. Like what's holding back merchants? And part of it is, it's a bit of a chicken and egg problem. If you make the investment to change as a merchant, like you're going to have to educate your staff. You're going to have to educate yourself on actually receiving these payments. Now, to take on that additional spend, you want to be sure that the customers are there, that they're actually going to be using this new technology. And that's still an open question. Are people going to spend their Lightning balance? Are people going to spend their Bitcoin at your store? And that's a big question. Like what I can tell just from the difference between like credit cards and Lightning payments is, like, I'm paying a lot more to receive payments as someone that receives credit card payments. There's risks involved, and like I pay that to Visa, whereas instead, I can pay to a decentralized network to like prepare this infrastructure for me. But on the customer side, I need to see a discount. And so what do I have to play with? Because like for Visa and MasterCard, you're going to get cash back. But like, what are you getting for Lightning? And it's really pushing businesses to think, how much of a discount am I willing to give on the Bitcoin side of things? Since I don't have to deal with all the fees, and what can I give back to the customer to incentivize them to spend their Bitcoin and to make my investment worth it?
Makes a lot of sense. Kind of goes back to like this like orderliness of Bitcoin adoption, where we're in this like store of value or aspiring store of value stage, and in some regions people are absolutely using this as a medium of exchange. But for the most part in the Western developed countries, it's in the aspiring store of value. And as that kind of continues, people more and more are going to start to use it as a medium of exchange. So how do we get people to actually use their Bitcoin savings? I mean, it's a big question that you raise. And but it seems like the trend is clear that there is more merchant adoption. There's companies coming out of the woodwork, starting to integrate with Lightning. And Voltage just partnered with Google Cloud, which is huge news. So congratulations, Graham. I would love to hear more about that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's what we've been doing with Google Cloud is it's a couple different things. In that, one, I mean, we're leveraging Google Cloud to go more global in our operations. So as we work with larger organizations, there's specific requirements on having nodes operating on a specific cloud provider or in a specific location of, like, in the nodes running in the UK or in Asia or a specific location. So we are leveraging Google to go to expand operations more globally. And then additionally, we're working with Google Cloud on being sort of their go-to Bitcoin and Lightning team inside of they set up like a blockchain node engine. And so we're kind of servicing customers that are interested in Bitcoin through that, as well as being a provider in their Web3 accelerator. So organizations that are going through Google Cloud to create Web3 products and services. We're a Bitcoin and Lightning exclusive provider for that as well. So it's really working both in us, enabling us to expand more globally and serving more Lightning Network users across the world, as well as being a go-to provider for Google Cloud and their customers that are looking to deploy Bitcoin and Lightning services as well. So, it's been great to work with them, and they're very excited about, broadening out the scope of Bitcoin services into adding more Lightning. And so I think it'll be really exciting to see that continue to grow.
Absolutely. I mean, it's Google, so it's pretty big news. And what was I mean, I'd love to hear just more about like those conversations. So what was like the level of their, Bitcoin and Lightning, like education, and how excited were they? Like, were they just like, did they approach you, or did you guys approach them? Like, I would just love to hear a little bit more details if you can.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's ultimately, we've actually been talking about this for a long time. It just took it was really just engineering efforts to get everything over the line. And so ultimately, they're excited. Like, I would call Google Cloud as one of the most like crypto friendly cloud providers out there. And so they're very interested in supporting as much things as they can. And so they're very interested in, working with the Bitcoin and Lightning ecosystem. And so overall, they were definitely excited. Certainly wanted, to get involved and start working with us and, other providers in the space. So, all in all, like, they're definitely excited, and they're not just, I wouldn't call them, just doing it, at face value, just to have another like product in their, in their platform, but are very interested in, like, the ethos that go along with, Bitcoin and Lightning, and actually bringing the technology to more people. So that was really positive to see.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's exciting. Yeah, I wanted to finish off like just throwing out a question. What do you guys think like the next 1 year, 5 years look like for the Lightning Network and for Bitcoin? Like, what are you excited about, and how do you think things are going to kind of play out? I look at the ecosystem, and just in the last 2 years, it seems to have exploded with entrepreneurs and different services and tools, and you guys are both a part of that. So when you guys look out ahead in the short to medium term, what are you guys getting excited about, and how do you think it's all going to play out next? I'll throw it to Jesse.
Yeah, well, we already saw an early indicator of how this next phase is going to be like the Lightning phase. We already went through like all the crypto solutions, and now it's like we've gone through all the tokenomics, DeFi, Web3 stuff, but really where the value accrues is Lightning. Whereas like, we might not have like the tokenomics, big whole like numbers going absolutely wild, getting a whole bunch of attention. But what we do have is network infrastructure, and that has been built out slowly over a long period of time. And it's easy to kind of underestimate what Lightning Network is doing, because this is a network that is growing at 38% year over year, whereas Visa is growing at, like overall digital payments are growing at 5% per year. So this is truly explosive growth on that scale. And what we're watching is enterprise players getting into Lightning, one attending the MicroStrategy conference, and how they're using Lightning payments to actually facilitate positive behaviors from their employees, which is wild. I mean, people want to show up to the meetings on time to get their little SAT bonus. Okay, that's an incredible use case, as well as Binance realizing that, we should have integrated Lightning Network a long time ago to really save on the fees that we may pay in the future. I don't think they were prepared for ordinals inscriptions and all the BRC20 things that cause Bitcoin transaction fees to go way up. So I think this next phase is going into how like Lightning is an enterprise solution that will be the rails of payments in the future.
Yeah, definitely. No, I think that we're certainly seeing a lot of interest in Bitcoin and Lightning, like from traditional players that maybe you wouldn't expect or haven't been involved so far. So I think as we look at the current state of Web3, or whatever you want to call it, is like very shaky or very unknown in terms of like things that our SEC are doing and all these different things. And I think that overall people are understand that the technology that we have here is like not something that's going to go away. Like it's very important, and it is having a positive impact. And then when they think about applying it, well, we see a lot of people that are coming to Bitcoin first because they see it as the safest bet, which it is amongst all the others. And so there definitely is a large amount of people that are interested in joining this ecosystem that are not active players yet. And so I think that will be coming over the next 12 to 18 months, which is very, very exciting. And then additionally, everything that Jesse said around we do see value accruing inside of Lightning. And I think that there's also the whole issue of Lightning and the gossip data and things like that of it's only a small subset of what's actually happening in the network. The viewpoints of the channel capacity, number of channels, number of nodes that's only the ones that people are okay talking about, basically. There's this whole other you don't have to announce your payment channels, you don't have to announce your nodes, all of these things. And so there's a whole separate hidden, if you will, section of the Lightning Network that is, growing substantially. And, when we think about things like Binance and whatnot, we see more and more people not necessarily deploying it in, the standard way of just opening up for everyone to open up channels to and having everything public. So I would say that there's a whole section of the Lightning Network that is more private, and we're only going to really find out about it once a company announces, hey, we're using this in a certain way. And so I think that, we're going to see some really bullish news over the next 12 to 18 months around that, and I think that it'll really drive adoption even further as people. We have just validation checks along the way of certain organizations using it, just like BlackRock entering the ETF game and things like that. Really just validation points on this is not going away. We're actually increasing number of users and capacity at all of these things, and so I think that it's all going to continue over the next several years.
I have to agree. The last thing I just wanted to ask your guys' opinion about was, the ARC made a lot of noise. ARC is another protocol that basically is basically a white paper right now, but it was announced at Bitcoin Miami, and it was basically just another payment protocol built on top of Bitcoin, just a little bit different way to do things than the Lightning Network. And I'm wondering if, Jesse, you talked about how there's so much infrastructure now, Lightning infrastructure, developers. And to me, it's is the network effect of Lightning, is that strong enough to, is another protocol even going to be able to compete at this point? Because it seems like it's gathered a lot of momentum. And then I think about, well, could there be multiple protocols with different use cases, and maybe they could even be interoperable with one another? And it just got me thinking about how this could all play out if there is these other protocols that offer different trade-offs. And how do you guys see, what was your reaction to the ARC announcement? And how do you guys see that whole thing playing out in terms of different payment protocols being built on Bitcoin?
Yeah, first reaction, if I'm going to be honest, is well, one, I don't understand it. I don't get it. There's going to be lots of learning that needs to happen. After diving in, there are some major engineering questions that it raises about what the whole thing is about trade-offs. How are you going to design this protocol so that it works and that it helps to scale Bitcoin? And it's still very early days in the development of this protocol, but it is exciting, and I think we will see more layer 2 proposals. But the network effect of Lightning is quite substantial, where you have the whole incentive structure to get you to join the network is already clear, and we've published this with Liner to actually show the opportunity size in Lightning to try and capture some of that value and further the network adoption.
Yep. No, I think similarly, it is early in seeing the actual reach and things that it can do. But ultimately, I think that I'm kind of the opinion of, I think that Bitcoin scaling is going to be done in different ways, and depending on geography, Fedimints, might be really popular in some parts of Africa, which is and then maybe ARC is serving a different population that we don't even really know yet, and then Lightning is, servicing US and Europe or something like that. Like, who knows? But ultimately, all of these, like Fedimints and Lightning are interoperable. Arc and Lightning are interoperable. I don't think that one is gonna. I think Lightning will dominate the majority of them, but I think there's going to be others that exist, and they're all going to be interoperable, and like they'll be fine. They'll be servicing probably different use cases and things like that. So I think that ultimately, I'm interested to watch and see how things progress. I think it'll be very interesting from the protocol standpoint, and then ultimately, I don't think that. I think Lightning definitely has like the stronghold as far as the most popular layer 2, but I think that all of these other ones will exist, but they will exist and be very, very collaborative with Lightning. So I don't think it's going to be one is defeating the other or anything like that.
Yeah, and competition's a good thing, right? It pushes everyone to be better. So and if they're interoperable, that's even more exciting because who knows? This is a whole ecosystem that could be developed. Well, guys, we're running out of time, so this was a really great conversation. I am a big fan of what you guys are both building at both of your companies. I think it's really important to help improve the user experience when using the Lightning, and I think both Amboss and Voltage helps drive Lightning adoption forward in that way. So thanks for coming on the show. If people want to find your work or follow you guys, why don't you let them know where to find you and learn more about either your companies or yourselves personally?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can follow along.
Go ahead, Jesse. You go first.
You can follow along at Amboss Tech on Twitter, and our website is amboss.space.
Awesome. Yeah. And my Twitter handle is Krizek. So that's GKRIZEK. Our company is voltage.cloud. And then our Twitter handle is voltage_cloud. So definitely reach out. I'm happy to help or chat about Lightning.
Yeah. Well, Jesse, Graham, thanks again for coming on, and thanks for building. Keep building in this bear market, and I'm excited to see what you guys keep delivering and executing and bringing to the market. So thanks for coming on the show, and have a wonderful day.
If you care about your financial future, you need to check out a couple of our offerings, including Swan IRA and Swan Private. Swan Private is our white glove concierge service where you get a trusted partner on your Bitcoin journey. We offer all kinds of education and research projects, as well as exclusive events to our Swan Private customers. Check it out today at swan.com/private. Also, Swan IRA. Swan IRA is the best way to gain exposure to real Bitcoin in a tax-advantaged account, like a traditional IRA, a Roth IRA, or rolling over your 401k. So if that interests you, check it out at swan.com/IRA today.